Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining our today's session. We are talking about something that's becoming a game changer in delivery, smart lockers and how they are reshaping the last mile of logistics. Everyone probably heard this before, but I believe it's worth repeating. The last mile is the most expensive and complicated part of the entire supply chain. In e commerce itself, it can take up more than half of the total delivery cost. So, finding smarter ways to manage it is quite a big deal. That's where smart lockers actually come in. They are secure, automated pickup points that let customers collect parcels whenever it suits them. No missed deliveries, no wasted courier times. My name is Irina Sapriianchuk, and I work in logistic innovation and digital transformation. And today I am also joined by Michael Anderson, an expert in transportation and fleet management, and Dmytro Pykus, our technology leader. Together, we will walk you through both the business value and the tech side behind the smart lockers, how they work, how they connect to the rest of the system, and why they are becoming a key piece of the modern delivery puzzle. Giving the word to Michael now to start with the business side and what it means to have smart lockers in today's world.
Excellent. Thank you, Ira. So I think if we just take a moment to look back at what's happened in last mile delivery, and specifically the incredible growth that we've seen in home delivery and business to consumer home delivery. Um, the internet exploded into life in the mid 90s. Some people can even remember the first time they bought something from Amazon, who were the market leaders in that area. And the growth of the internet and the enablement of e-commerce, online shopping, and ultimately m-commerce as well, saw growth that was not anticipated. And carriers at that time had huge challenges in coping with that volume. And it's interesting to note that we're talking about lockers today. The emergence of lockers came about in many countries, but there was a concentration in the Baltics and then in Eastern Europe. And that reflects a couple of things that I think are important to take into account. Firstly, with the Baltics, delivery with the land mass, the weather, the challenges associated with that meant that lockers were an easy fit. In Eastern Europe, e-commerce came slightly later than other countries, and it was possible for companies to build lockers as part of their initial business strategy. Other countries developed home solutions, home delivery solutions that were increasingly sophisticated, but ultimately were incredibly cost heavy, as Ira said. So, and it's still the case today that when it comes to home delivery, over 50% of that cost of the overall cost is associated with that. So we've seen an evolution from 2 to 3 day delivery to next day and same day delivery in many cases. And that's now an expectation that consumers are looking for. They have that expectations, they're looking for that requirement. And home delivery on the next day service is, as we said, incredibly expensive. So what we're seeing in the last 5 years is a very rapid shift from that labor intensive door-to-door drop methodology to a much more flexible and tech-driven model. And I'll just focus on the tech aspect there, because if you're used to home delivery, you'll have experienced a growth in notifications and the way that the checkout is far more integrated into the delivery offer and the delivery process. And that is what we're going to be talking about, or Dmytro in particular will be talking about, how that technology is now emerging and is becoming a requirement within the locker element. I'll talk a little bit about the real detail, but fundamentally, when it comes to operational performance, having a locker adds a layer of efficiency that simply wasn't there before. And it brings consumers considerable benefits as well. They can pick up at a time of their choice. They know that the item is there. They can predict their activity associated with that. and the turnaround times are significant in terms of people know they go, the lockers then available for further capacity. If we move on to the next slide, there's another really important factor that we talk about in terms of smart lockers. We've seen a huge growth in two aspects of the market that are really important to consider here. The first is returns. Much of the growth that's come with e-commerce is associated with apparel, with clothing, with shoes, and it's common practice now, particularly with cross-border items, to buy one, two or three sizes. Not because people are being greedy, but simply when you buy from different manufacturers, sizes are not uniform, and particularly when you buy from a country that you're not resident in. So if I'm buying a shirt from Germany, it'll be a slightly different cut. The collar size might be the same, but everything else could be different. So if I'm given that choice, I'll make that choice to have two. But I've got to get those items back. Having to create your own label is difficult enough, but then having to take it to a retail outlet or find a way of having a physical contact with a carrier is difficult, and lockers take away 90% of those problems. The other element we've seen, and it's been growing for some time, is micro shippers. So people with a side hustle, people with a business that they're starting, and during that startup period, they need access to an affordable service. Having the courier come to collect is not cost effective for the courier, and that's reflected in the price. Dropping an item off at a locker is far more cost effective. And an element there to really touch on, which is really important, is the capability to have an item where it's validated when you're going to the locker. So you know that the items being dispatched, you're able to offer great services. Okay, if we move to the next slide, we can see some of the numbers here. So we look at today, lockers in the last 2-3 years has grown significantly. And whilst that growth we don't anticipate to go in exactly the same line, we do anticipate that you're going to see at least another 12% growth. I think that's a conservative figure, but that's only my personal view. But by 2032, you'll have seen a quadrupling of the amount of lockers, and particularly smart lockers. And that's a big number we're talking there, over $2.5 billion US dollars. We move to the next slide, we'll see how that plays out in Europe and the global volume. And as I said earlier, Europe wasn't at the vanguard of this change, particularly in the Baltics and Eastern Europe. So whilst that growth is slightly shallower, it's coming from a base that's higher. But there are countries where that lockers are simply not the case. There are countries where lockers just won't work. For example, in the Middle East, where no one wants to go out when it's 50-degree heat. But if you look at the US, there's hardly any lockers. But that's beginning to change as people recognise that there's apartment blocks where a locker would be such a benefit to all the carriers. If we move on to the next slide, I'll get into the real detail of what we're talking about here in terms of the benefit. For businesses themselves, one of the most difficult parts of being a carrier is making sure that when you go to make a delivery, someone is there. The first attempt delivery rate. When I was managing operations, if you could get that number below 5%, you were doing very well. With lockers, you can get that number below 1%. And that gives you success. The consumer's happy, but also you haven't got that 4 to maybe 10% of your volume going back into the operation each day and causing you challenges. That gives you cost optimization. And some of that's achieved through what we call consignment rate. So effectively, when you're making a drop off at a locker, you're probably doing that with between 5 and 10 items. If you make a delivery to a front door, it's 1 or 2 items at the most. Returns, as I said, they need to be cost effective, both for the shipper, but for the carrier as well. Returns aren't going away. Returns will be managed differently in the future, but having that capability is essential for an effective e-commerce cycle. As I said, it's 24/7. The customer can make that choice as to when they when they actually go and collect the item. Currently, the locations are highly accessible. We'll come on to what the future might hold with that. So they're placed in the right places for people, whether that's a petrol station, by a transport hub, or where just people are walking past. Security I haven't touched on at all, but that's really important, not just for high value items, but fraud is a big part of this industry, unfortunately. In terms of the numbers, a very small percentage, but for fraud is far easier to perform when there's a physical contact. You're relying on a photograph, or you're relying on placing the item in a secure place. A locker takes away more than 95% of those issues, because it's verified, because it's a pickup. Lockers are now far more modular, scalable from a modular perspective than they were. We've seen a huge change in manufacturing that allows a successful locker location, if there's space, adding more compartments to that. That delivers higher fleet efficiency because you'll get higher consignment rates, which I'll go back to before. That reduces your fuel use and emissions. So there's a lot of benefits associated with the carriers. There's a lot associated with the shippers, and the consumers, whether they're a consumer who's looking to do a return or just someone who wants their delivery, are satisfied as well. And then finally, the micro senders. We look at Vinted and Vestair Collective, eBay. They're not going away. That growth will continue, and providing options for that growth will only fuel it further. But like any initiative, like any innovation, there are associated challenges. Lockers are an infrastructure investment, and the first phase of lockers, when they're at capacity, they're being used, the payback is I wouldn't say almost certain, but you have high confidence level. As we go into the next phase, the payback will be analysed far more closely, as placing them in areas with less footfall may not deliver the return. And understanding that, and understanding how the consumer is satisfied, is essential. They have to be maintained. The lockers that are maybe 10 or 15 years old have nowhere near the technology. They're not autonomous. They need a grid connection. We've moved to autonomous lockers in many cases, or solar powered, whether they're solar powered or they're battery fed. They still need maintenance. So that's a big consideration. And you can place a locker in what you think is a good place, but if you haven't got the demographic profile and think, well, people are going past here, but they're only going past in the morning when they're away to the gym. They want to collect the item when they're coming home via the transport hub. So understanding that and the level of utilization is a key consideration. I'm not going to step into Dmytro's area and talk too much about the technology integrations, but they have to be there. And without that, they're certainly not smart, and they're not going to be effective. Site selection will become increasingly difficult because, well, not all, but most of the good sites have gone. And as I said, the demand there is a critical element. And the service level agreements for scheduling how you drop into and collect from them will adapt over time. And whilst you're getting this consignment rate, you've got to still service those lockers in a way. It might require a different vehicle. It might require a timing that reflects the demand flows associated with that. And you can change that and adapt to it and maybe push some of those changes. But fundamentally, the consumer decides. And the dwell time is something that we don't talk about probably enough. But for every day that an item's in a locker, that's a day when that locker has less capacity. So I'm confident, we're seeing it now, that consumers and users of lockers will be incentivized and sometimes penalized for making sure that their item is either dropped off at a time that works for all parties concerned, or they're collecting it in the time scale. But you can only do that with the data, the analytics, and the incentives and the elements associated with any penalties. they're part of the technology and the smart element of it. So hopefully that gives you a picture of where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're heading to. And I'll hand back to Ira to take this forward.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. That was really insightful, packed with lots of benefits, packed with lots of actually the challenges, insights, and details on how this works, why, and in which cases. So really appreciate the business point and your personal overview on the space at the moment. Michael already touched lots of points. We are going to dive a bit deeper today in this webinar with Dmytro also. So I would like to share a few more words about the types and technology behind the smart lockers. So typically when we think about the last mile, we usually imagine driver, van, and the doorstep, right? But increasingly, that last step doesn't end at the front door now. Now it ends at the smart locker. These systems are quietly transforming how parcels move, as Michael already mentioned, how customers pick them up, and how carriers plan their routes. So at the simplest level, smart lockers are connected storage units. They are secure, automated compartments for contactless delivery and pickup. Typically, how that works, courier drops off a package, locker locks it automatically, and the customer gets a text or app notification with the code or QR. They walk up to the locker, they scan the code, door opens, and done. It's easy, right? And pretty straightforward, I would say, from the consumer standpoint. And there are a few main types you can see today. For the lockers, first of all, it's of course public lockers like Amazon, like InPost, DHL, FedEx, Nova Post, and Mist. They are commonly found in cities, transit hubs, at places which are conveniently located in different locations in the city, basically. So they offer convenient 24/7 access. There are also retail lockers, which are designed, as Michael shared about the shirt, from Germany. So they are designed for click and collect services from brands such as Walmart, Home Depot, IKEA, and Blockit. Customers simply can scan QR code and collect their orders fast, contactless, and hassle-free. There are also another type of lockers, which are enterprise lockers. These are used typically inside corporate offices, university warehouses, and hospitals for internal deliveries, for IT equipment, or even temperature-controlled goods. Providers like Ricoh, Smart Lockers, Pitney Bowes, and Cleveron can be heard of in this space. And the last but not the least, there are also residential and multi-unit buildings lockers such as Snailly, Luxor One, Parcel Pending, and Expedibox. This company are offering solutions like this, and they are becoming essential in apartment complexes and gated communities, giving residents secure 24/7 access to their deliveries right at home with no fraud and no access from anyone from the outside. This process is simple, but I can say beautifully efficient. Drivers drop multiple parcels in one place, not one or two parcels, but multiple of them. And consumer pick them up on their own schedule. Everything is tracked automatically, and every action every second. But moving to the next slide here, where things get interesting. The real power smart lockers isn't in metal, right, or in the locks. It's the whole ecosystem, the whole connectivity, software that connects them. So we have different parts here. And smart lockers, they are not standalone boxes. They are part of the larger digital network that ties together logistics, e-commerce, and customer experience. Here you can see on the screen how the ecosystem can look like. We have different aspects here, different tools and applications. Starting from mobile apps, which are used so customers can get real-time updates, they can find locker location and scan their QR codes. We have different order management, warehouse management systems, and of course, locker management systems. So when a courier closes a locker door, the order instantly shows us ready for pickup in the consumer app and in the internal system. We have different TMS, transportation management system, and route software, route optimization software as well. So instead of 10 doorstep stops, one locker stop can complete 10 deliveries, as long as the system knows locker capacity in real time. We also have CRM tools and you can see different support tools. So for example, if the customer is saying my code doesn't work, our system and support can exactly say what happened. And of course, we have different parts here. We have software, hardware, middleware. It's all IoT and analytics, which already was mentioned by Michael. Lockers send data on door status, temperature, connectivity for predictive maintenance and for other different insights to make better decisions and actually create stronger ecosystem. So when we talk about smart lockers, we are not really talking about the steel boxes anymore, like is, but we are talking about digital network, one that connects couriers, systems, people in real time, making the last mile faster, smarter, and far more reliable. And of course, this all sounds pretty simple. But moving to the next slide, none of this unfortunately happens automatically. We have to make a base, a fundamental to make this all secure, make this all strong and actually connected together. Let's talk about what makes the system work well and what can cause issues. Here we can see connectivity and reliability. So if locker goes offline, everyone is stuck. Customer can't get the parcel, so the locker doesn't work. So we have to understand that there are different solutions how we can make that reliable and actually usable. So the best system, they use combination of different systems, so dual SIM, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi fallbacks, and even offline modes with cached access or cached codes access that keeps uptime about 99%. There is also a part about data flow and integration. All systems such as Locker, TMS, WMS have to agree on parcel status. So we have to have this data flown seamlessly. So event-driven architecture helps here by updating everything in the moment when something changes. Of course, lockers hold valuable goods. They can be valuable by price or they can be valuable for you. So access must be fast and secure, whether it's QR, PIN, RFID, biometrics, or Wi-Fi, as we have here mostly in Ukraine. Novopost is using Wi-Fi, which is super convenient, actually Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, combination of both, which is convenient and really secure access combination. Every event is logged and encrypted. And even if connection drops, lockers should keep running. So cached data lets drivers and customers continue as normal, even if something happens. So everything is synchronized later. And of course, capacity optimization, what Michael already mentioned, every centimeter of space counts. Smart system, they match parcel size to the right locker slot. And if it's full, automatically reroute the package to a nearby location. So that's pretty much it from my side on the technical part and let's say types of the lockers. Now moving forward, I'd like to give words to Dmytro to share a bit more about the exact experience and how technical companies, technical teams are actually dealing with the creating this global digital ecosystem of smart lockers.
Yeah, thank you, Ira. And now let's talk about our experience. We have been part of a project focused on developing a smart locker system, working on everything from IoT integration and secure remote access to real-time performance monitoring. That experience led us to start building our own smart locker solution, one that brings all systems closer together, improves cybersecurity, and uses advanced analytics to predict performance needs. Our goal is to create a complete smart locker ecosystem that works as a single seamless solution. It includes mobile apps for end users, a tablet interface for the lockers themselves, a cloud backend, custom hardware controllers, and an admin dashboard for operators. Each component is designed for simple and safe connection at all levels. And each physical locker is powered by ESP32 microcontrollers, which controls the door via relays, sensors, and expanders. These devices send constant status updates, such as if a door is open or closed, and supports wireless software updates, ensuring that every locker is secure and up to date without the need of for manual service. The backend developed with Node.js and MongoDB. It manages booking, parcel tracking, and user data, and also handle push notifications for events such as booking confirmation, parcel arrivals, or successful pickups. On top of that, it provides integrations with enterprise systems via APIs, making it flexible and easy to connect with existing business infrastructure. And moving to the next slide, both the mobile and local apps are built with React Native, which allows us to share a single code base between them. This approach gives us faster updates, consistent user experience, and good performance across all devices. The locker tablet runs in a kiosk mode and supports several access methods. So user can unlock lockers using a QR or numeric code, an RFID card or tag, or even via Bluetooth connection from their phone. And importantly, all access credentials are stored locally on the device. So even if there is no internet connection, users can still access their lockers and pick up parcels without interruption. And for operators, we have built an admin dashboard that provides full visibility and control over the system. Via this interface, staff can manage lockers, users, and parcels, monitor system logs, and even manually override a locker door if needed. The dashboard also includes detailed usage statistics to help track performance and optimize operations. And talking about security, security is a top priority across the entire platform. All communications between components are encrypted with HTTPS and TLS, and every locker device has its own unique certificate for authentication. Access code and credentials automatically expire after use or a set timeout period, and a full audit trail is maintained for every access attempt to ensure completely transparency. So here is how the system works in the practice. A user books a locker in the app and receive a QR code, a PIN, or RFID credential. A courier then places the parcel in the assigned locker, and the user immediately gets notification that their delivery is ready. When the user arrives, they simply scan their QR code or use their PIN or RFID to unlock the locker and pick up their parcel. The system instantly records this event and updates the backend to close the delivery loop. If the parcel needs to be redirected, for example, to another user or locker, new credentials are generated and the old ones are revoked automatically. Even if the internet connection is temporarily lost, the system keeps working smoothly. All credentials are cached locally, allowing user to unlock lockers offline. And once the connection is restored, all actions and logs automatically sync back to the cloud. And in short, our smart locker solution combines reliability, flexibility, and security, bringing together hardware, software, and cloud technology into one united ecosystem designed for real-world performance. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dmytro, for sharing your experience based on everything which was discussed about the business side, about the tech side, and different types, and in general, how this ecosystem, how the lockers, smart lockers infrastructure is growing and will be growing in the future. I can definitely say that smart lockers are one of the clearest examples of digital transformation logistics. They bring together, as it was mentioned, IoT, APIs, automation, data, and all in one experience that's simple for customers and efficient for businesses. So the real advantage isn't just owning the lockers, but it is in connecting them intelligently across carriers, retailers, and warehouses. That's how companies will truly unlock and win the last mile, by turning metal boxes into digital infrastructure, into new solutions. So to sum up, smart lockers combine everything that we want from the last mile delivery. It's speed, it's security, and simplicity. So thank you very much, everyone who joined our today's session. My name is Irina Sapriianchuk, and big thanks to Michael Anderson and Dmytro Pykus for co-hosting. We would love to hear thoughts and questions for everyone who watched this webinar. Please feel free to drop them in the comment section. And once again, thank you for spending your time with us today.